Hello everybody, I'm Carlos. Thank you for watching. In this particular segment, Chillin' with Carlos, I don't know if that's what we'll call it, but basically it's just going to be a freestyle format where I'm just going to kind of just roll with a topic on my mind and just kind of talk without necessarily having an official presentation. So in this case, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the overall current administration, the current Republican agenda overall, and just talk about just some of the concerns that I think we should all be aware of, regardless if you are, Republican, or if you're independent, or if you're Democrat, or if you think that you are, you lean conservative, you lean liberal, just in a sense, kind of just put all that aside and just take an objective look at what the administration is doing, and really try to put that into perspective as to how is that helping people, and is it helping people? And I really don't want to get too biased, but of course this is opinionated. It's an opinion piece naturally. But I think there's an overall good when you take away the partisan differences, and I think the overall good for anybody in general would really just be the goal that anybody would want for themselves, for their fellow man, for their neighbors, whether you're religious or not, or you feel like you have a moral compass that's here or over there. I mean, I think that most people in general just want to, feel blessed and just feel safe and secure, and just want something like that for their fellow man. And so with all that in mind, as we take a look at what the administration is doing and what the administration has done, therefore allowing us to kind of, in a sense, foretell a little bit about where they may be going, I think it's good to just talk about it, put it into perspective, and then kind of rethink, is this where we want this, this world, this situation, this place to go, So that's kind of what my thought is, at least with this particular segment. And so I'm basically kind of get started. And the topic really just has to deal with some of the actions that have come from this administration. I'll probably just kind of start at the beginning and kind of go from there. So I'm trying to remember all these facts off my head. They're not all necessarily sourced, but they are from news articles that are credible. I mean, I understand that journalism can be biased. I mean, naturally, you have your liberals and you have your conservatives, and both of their papers kind of present a point of view. But regardless, just my thought is just I'm just going with what I've read and what I know, and just wanted to kind of put that out there. So the first thing I want to think about is, as you remember what the campaign was going off of, he was really advocating, and by this I mean then candidate Trump was really advocating for the average person, the forgotten about individuals that have, in a sense, really kind of been forgotten about, not even during the Obama administration, but even the Bush administration. If you hear President Trump, he's been very critical of his predecessors, naturally Obama, but even Bush, even Clinton, and quite frankly, even Bush Sr. So, so with that said, he was really advocating for what is going to be best for the lost voter. And so he's really going to stand up for you, because he really wants these wages to go up, and he really wants to protect our borders, and he really wants to make sure we're going to play on a global stage and compete with the global rising powers of China and Russia again, and Brazil, and and any other country that's doing very well and starting to make rises, and which good, they definitely need to, but he didn't want it to be at our expense, and so it's a great message. It is a great message, but then it has a lot of negative undertones to it, though. I mean, these are great goals, but there's ways that you have to get to these goals. The way you get there is really what matters. The end goal, that's just the end in mind, you know. But you got to get there, and you got to get there smartly, you know, if that's even a word. You got to make sure you're taking the right steps to make sure this happens, you know. So yes, want to be aggressive with adversaries who are threatening our sovereignty, you know. North Korea, you know, I mean, it's a natural threat. It's going to be a threat for any president under any administration coming up, you know, especially in the immediate future. And if you think about North Korea, that's something that has to be handled in the appropriate way, but then the irresponsibility of the tweeting as a diplomatic tool to solve a problem, you know, we laugh at our own, you know, I guess acquaintances or friends or people we have on Facebook when they put too much information out there. And sometimes I think we often think, well, that's just a little too much information and whatnot, or that's not how I would have handled that situation. They're putting their business on Facebook, and we have that standard for them, but yet we give a pass to the man who's calling the leader of a very dangerous regime fat and ugly or something like that, or fat and short, or whatever the hell it was. But, you know, I mean, think about the mentality of that. And how does that really help protect the American person other than rushing and rising tensions to an inevitable, possibly an inevitable solution, or not a solution, a situation? It might be inevitable that we are going to go to war with North Korea, but why do you got to rush it? And why do you have to use such childish behavior to solve such a large problem that is going to affect the rest of the world? It's going to affect people in South Korea. It's going to affect people in Asia. It's going to affect people in Europe, and it's going to affect people here. Global economy will just go to shit, you know? And it's like, is this the best way to get aggressive with North Korea? I think there's probably more intelligent ways to get there. I mean, I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master's. I'm working on a bachelor's. But is that the way to get there? No, I don't agree. I think there's got to be a better way to get to the end goal of national security and dealing with the risk of North Korea. And I don't think it's through irresponsible tweets, and I do not think it's through childish diplomacy. I think it requires a steady hand. I think it requires well thought out strategy, and I think it requires a very strong State Department that's not being gutted from the inside out by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. And I'm not going to go into his background other than the fact that he was the CEO of ExxonMobil for I don't know how many years. You do the research, but it's a lot of years. And so there's obviously business interests at mind with that administration piece. And this is not left, this is not right, this is just, it is what it is. And is that the responsible measures we should be taking for our State Department at a time when tensions are so high? And now I'm going to shift into government spending when it comes to the military. We need to increase funding for the military. By God, we need to increase spending for the military. We have our foot and our hands and our fingers and our toes in every ounce of the world. We are involved in so many global situations and crises that, by God, these can all go crazy at any given time. And so, therefore, yes, we need that spending. And that I would definitely agree with the current administration in terms of needing to have that military strength, that military prowess, because, you know, as leaders of the free world, you know, part of our responsibility is to ensure, you know, global stability as much as we can. I mean, we can't do it all alone, but somebody's got to take the lead. We are leaders. We are leaders in technology. We're leaders, at least we should be leaders in technology. We should be leaders in education. We should be leaders in our military prowess. We should be leaders in our philosophical prowess. We should be leaders in our artistic prowess. We should be leaders in everything that we aim to do. And so therefore, as being leaders, we have to take a little bit of that role in making sure that we ensure global stability, because global stability contributes to our own stability as a nation as well. And as the economies of the world tend to go to hell in a handbasket, if we were to allow that, then it's going to impact our national economy. And so there are huge interests there that we have to invest in. These should be investments of the American people. The American people should feel like this is an investment for our overall safety, not only just physical safety from a bomb, but economic safety. You got to put food on the table. You got rents or mortgages to pay. You got kids' colleges to fund. And so when you think about just some of the methods that the current administration is using, just even on a global perspective, it really, really, really worries me. And I think that anybody should kind of be worried about that, and I haven't even gotten to the domestic side of the house, so maybe we can talk a little bit about the domestic side. So let's talk about the domestic side. How about that? So again, he wants to be good for the average worker. Again, this is the theme, right? He wants to protect the average American. So let's talk about the first of many unfortunate executive orders that were signed. The very first one that, at least I remember, and I'm pretty sure this was the very first one, was to cut back a cut or some kind of whatever was proposed by the Obama administration. So the fact that it was proposed by Obama, it's the devil. So got to get rid of it. So there was some kind of something that was going to save people from home mortgage insurance. So they're going to get they were going to get a little bit of relief on their premiums, which would have amounted to about $600, I think, for the average person. Again, trying to go off of memory here. This is back in January. So the first thing he did was he signed to get rid of that. So that's on average for each person who would have been eligible for that. That's $600. Now, okay, all right, give it $600, but for what though? What's it doing? I guess maybe helping to fund some of his extravagant traveling plans that he does quite frequently. And I don't want to get too, I guess, critical of that, but why would you need to cut that that relief for people? Then and then he starts to proceed to fill his cabinet with members who are very questionable. Currently, Michael Flynn is in the newspaper. I'm not even going to go over that, because if you're not well versed in that at this point, you're definitely not paying attention, but I think you should be. But in short, Michael Flynn naturally was charged by the FBI for lying to the FBI by special counsel, and but Michael Flynn, he was let go, I think, 24 days after he was confirmed as he was released, because he lied to the FBI. So anyway, so there's that. Then you get Secretary Betsy DeVos, who is sworn in at some point to be the Education Secretary, who is the very first cabinet nominee to ever have the vice president break a tie vote, because that's how dangerous you are to the American educational system. By all means, yes, private schools should have all the ability to thrive and accomplish all their goals, and yes, we should allow government funding for privatized schools and charter schools and and things of that nature. I'm all for anything that's pro-education, but you cannot do it at the expense of dollars that are there for struggling public schools. At a time where they need it the most, you can't get their money and then expect them to improve. Like, how do you manage to get these things to improve without the resources that they need? And yes, don't get me wrong, I understand business, sometimes you got to cut costs and still, put, balls to the wall, or whatever phrase you want to use to explain bust an ass, and you get some great results in the end. I'm not opposed to that, and I completely understand that, but you cannot take the money away from public schools, especially for public schools that are struggling in rural areas, and public schools that are struggling in inner cities and in other large metropolitan areas. And then, but yet on the other hand, you have private schools or charter schools and whatnot benefiting from these either these tax breaks or diverted money or whatever. I cannot see how you could justify that decision. It's an investment in a very important societal need. Education should be the thing that we probably spend a good amount of our budget on, and I don't think we spend enough of it on. How do you turn down educating our kids so that way they could be productive members of society and getting, enticing their innovation, and they might be the next creator of this, they might be the next president, they might be the next, God knows what. Why would we want to restrict that for the sake of now fast forward to today and you get all these tax cuts where we're basically saying, okay, we want to decrease our revenue, which I don't think anybody ever says that, but today, naturally I understand government spending, you can't go overboard, so I get it. But anyways, we're gonna cut our revenue. I'm gonna take a pay cut, honey, and in order to take that pay cut, we're gonna have to get rid of some things. I get it. If you're cutting the payroll, you gotta get rid of the cable. But at what expense, though? What other expenses? It's not just the cable that's going away. How much does Medicare have to be cut? How much does Medicaid have to be cut? For $100 million to Medicare, I believe, that's something we even pay into. It's not even an entitlement. It's something we pay into. That probably won't be there when I get to retire. God knows if that's the way we're going to keep cutting things. Medicaid, with the if they end up removing the individual mandate, most likely 13 million people will be kicked off of the exchanges. Probably people who really depend on that, and just so we can give that money to corporations to stir growth. Well, let's say growth. They talk about this trickle down thing, like, oh, these corporations, you give this money, they're gonna just shower it upon us. And there are going to be some companies that do. I work for a great company, and they invest in their employees, and they do some great things. I'm sure everybody can always think it would be better, but working for a company that I work for, they do reinvest, and we got into a new line of business, and it's been great. But not every company is like that. You get a lot of these corporations, large corporations, who even publicly have come out and said that they're not going to pass this money down to their workers or create new jobs or anything. It's going straight to the shareholders. Great. Not everybody owns stock, but but the fortunate ones that do, great. And so that's good, but that's not the average person. You still got a lot of people out there working fast food, got people out there in the restaurant industry, you got people out there in hairstylists, and and you got people out there in office jobs and in small businesses who they don't get the benefits that large corporations give to them. They don't get these nice health plans and these 401k matching things and all this PTO or paid time off and vacation and sick time. It's like they're living in a system that doesn't allow them to have nice things, and they work hard. Just because, just because you go to college, don't get me wrong, I'm going to college now, going after my bachelor's, I have big plans for my career, but just because I have big plans for my career, I do feel like I should be rewarded for the work that I do, but it doesn't mean, I don't feel that anybody is not worth it enough to at least earn a livable wage to have some of the basic things like health care and go have an education if they should want to. And if they don't want to, go straight into the workforce then, by all means. But, have to, just, and that's really kind of it, some of the basics. There could be some other things I can't think of off the top of my head at the moment, but, you know, I don't think these are much to ask for, not much to invest in a society for the overall good, and also having an administration that is not also putting us at risk on the global stage as well. So in summary, it's just, you know, there's a lot of concerning things going on, and while I think the overall message of what the current administration would like to do is a great message. I mean, I can see how it can be inspiring if you didn't really, you know, have to understand that there's a more riskier and sometimes I almost want to say just angry, I guess, undertone to the, like, I guess, foundation to everything that they do. You know, I think it would be a great message, but there is the reality of the fact that they're not achieving the message in probably the best way, in at least in the way that's in the best interest for the American people. So that was my little freestyle video. Again, if you like what you see, please continue to subscribe and view my videos, and can't wait to make another one. So take care. See you next time.